Marijuana's bad.
Hey guys, AK here, and we are on to part 10, the final part of this track with AK. Really excited to have finished the series, and for this video I actually have already done some work off camera, because as I was talking about in some of the earlier videos, when you are mixing your track, you absolutely need to hear things in stereo, and you absolutely need to hear things in the air rather than having them projected directly into your earphones, into your ears through headphones. So I spent some time with my monitors, really didn't spend too much time mixing this track because we did most of the sound design and placement while we were going along. But I think the important things to highlight, or at least how I go about starting my mix process, is starting with the section that's the loudest. So in this case, clearly right in the middle of the chorus with the solo. And then basically what I did is I soloed the kick and had the kick sitting, 14 seems low, it looks like I have it sitting about -7 on the actual drum rack, and then I would one by one bring in each of the elements, really just adjusting the volume so that when I solo the drum track, we're hitting right around -6. This is actually even a little bit higher than I'm comfortable hitting. Usually I aim for -7 because when everything else comes in, we end up with some more build up. So most guys will tell you to sort of keep your mix at -6. I don't worry too much if I peer into a -5 or -4, as long as it's a high 4 or something like that. And then the next thing I did is like pick the next most important element. So in that case, it would probably be like the chords. I'd set the volume there. And I'm going to resist the temptation to make changes now because in my headphones, this sounds a little bit quiet. It sounds like the chords actually could come up a dB or so, minus or maybe a half a dB. But like I said, I listened on speakers and it sounded good, so I'm going to trust my speakers. And then I would do things like bring in the subs and then bring in the leads. Bring in the bass, bring in more sampling parts. Basically, one by one bring stuff back in and then set the volume relative to everything else so that when you play the section, you're not really in. See, there we hit -5. It's a little hot, not gonna lie. I don't think my mastering engineer is gonna be pissed off yet. But that's the general idea. And then once you set up the most intense section, you can go back to the beginning and sort of go from there, tweak things as they occur to you. I generally actually will solo each section and do the drums from the ground up, but I always base it on the loudest part, so I never have to go I never have to be reaching for more headroom and be turning things down. I always want to turn things way down to mix and then just turn things up. It makes me much happier. So other than that, mixing the drums and the leads around, drums, leads, and chords around each other, I went in and I did a little bit of volume automation. I think for the intro, I took the kick and I put a utility on there. And if we right-click utility, we'll see there's a little volume ramp here. So the kick sort of fades in nicely, and it doesn't just happen all at once. And what else? I haven't cleaned up this unused stuff. Maybe I will. In fact, if any of you guys are watching this and you've gotten this far in the series and you've seen me produce, some of these different sections, I will say if you are interested in doing a collab with me, I would be more than happy to make the stems of this part totally available for you guys. And we could use this as a jumping off section for another tune. Anyway, so I talked about the volume ramp here. I didn't actually do too much with the bass because it sounded really good to me. I guess I was already doing a lot of automation on the sub bass, so who knows, maybe I just got it right in the headphones. I'll let the track play and just sort of talk about it as we're going through. One thing that's actually really interesting that most people would really not recommend, I'm sure, is you'll see I have all this automation written on my master right now. And what this actually is a very simple rack with just utility in it and macro not mapped to volume, but it's mapped, you can see if I expose the mapping menu here, to -3 or +3 dB. So this full range of this knob never goes beyond 3 or 4 dB. And you might be able to see or even subtly hear what's going on here. This is just to increase some dynamics in the track. So like here's a good example. This goes down to like minus 1.29. And you can't really hear it. You can slightly hear it losing volume and energy, but that's okay because when this drums kicks in, I really wanted that to like stick out. So one great way to do that is to have the volume come down and then it'll just punch right in here. Hear what I'm talking about? You gotta resist the temptation to get crazy. But it looks like I did here for that one. This is a good example of how you just get more dynamics in a track with so many elements. Just adjust everything all at once. I think that's punchy. Good. So you might hear the solo sounds a little different. I didn't really change it too much. I just went in and fixed some of the notes and made them more rhythmically precise. Added some modulation here. So it just sort of breaks up. Actually, one thing that might be nice is to have that also redux. I said I wasn't going to add stuff, and one of the benefits to just being like, I'm done, is that you don't, keep doing like what I'm doing right now, what I probably shouldn't be doing, but I'm just hearing it, so I'll bring the redux in just for the last part. Yeah, and that's sort of what I was hearing is like... That's cool. Cool. And then for this interlude section, I gave it a really mild sort of peak right in the middle, about half a dB of gain. So there's sort of some arc and dynamics to the section. Again, we're watching our meters. I hit -4.6 there, probably back when that section came in. I'm not worried too much. -5 is, I'm going to be honest, it's a little hot, but this track is hot, so what else? So okay, here's a mix problem that we just saw happen. You see how the volume is climbing to like -2? It's happening on this loop channel, and I thought I actually fixed this before. You can see how that's at -0. So it's just too loud. One way we can settle this is just to have this gently do some volume automation, maybe opposite the volume of the whole track. It's like I can bring this down and put a point. Wait, 7 is way too much. We'll do it just like. And what we're doing right now is really dangerous, I'm not gonna lie, because I can't actually hear these monitors. So what I would do is I would put a point right in the middle there, and then get rid of these 2 points. So it sort of arcs down. I'll draw a little bit of a fade in here. So the volume of this arcs down. Maybe that'll hold the hits. I could also use a compressor to sort of just catch those transients so we don't run into the -2 is too loud. You can't go that high. I'm watching my meter here. Hoping that took care of it. It doesn't, I know this doesn't sound like a loud section, but I think that did the trick. There we go. That definitely did the trick. I just want to watch this and make sure it doesn't go too high. One thing I did not do that I usually do is pan stuff. Which was dumb. Because you should not have everything going right down the center. And, you know, there's a lot of panning just built into some of the sound design that we've done here. Like, this is a good example. You can see there's like totally different on the left and right. But you know, I wasn't hearing that the mix needed it, so maybe there's enough panning in my sound design that it's not a problem. I might pan things, and I'll talk about how I would do that just as soon as we finish our listen through here. We have a nice ending for DJs. Put this right into another track. And then go ahead, do something else. Who knows? So yeah, so that's the idea. That is pretty much what I did. Again, not too much with the mix, really. Just starting with the drums, getting the volume right, and then getting the things right around the drums. We've done most of our sound design. We've done a lot of EQing. We've done a lot of compression. We've done a lot of mixing type things in the sound design phase, which is why I don't get nuts with, you know, plug-in crazy. Some people like to get plug-in crazy in this phase. I just want to be done with this track. So I'm going to call this a finished product. I'm going to thank you all for spending all this different, you know, probably 10 hours worth of time with me in the studio. It's actually really been a blast to work on this track, and there was a part there, probably like part 5 or 6. I was like, I'm never going to get this done, but it sort of came together in the end, and we had that great, I had that great realization that it doesn't need all this other stuff. This is a good track as is. How long are we here? It's 4 minutes and 34 seconds. It's longer than you're going to get on the radio anyway. Not that we're making a track for the radio, but I'm proud of this one. So probably at this point, the only thing that I would do maybe is listen back to it a couple more times in different places to make sure nothing is like nuts and there's something that I missed because of my room, because I'm not mixing in an ideal room. And that's what rooms will do. Rooms will just help you be able to trust what you're hearing. You know, people talk about investing a lot of money in studio space and you know, like deadening walls and getting things treated, and that stuff really does matter, but only if you don't just do your due diligence and listen to your track in like 100 different places. Now, obviously, you can't listen to it in every freaking place, and you can't listen to it from every perspective, but that's at least my opinion on that stuff. Is like, you know, if you're professional and you really care about getting a pro sound, then yes, you absolutely need speaker treatment. But if you're like me, just sort of a dude doing this in his room, doing the best he can with what he's got, just listen in your headphones, in your car, in your kitchen, in your shower, and anything that sticks out to you, just make a note of it, and you can go back and address it. Or at least that's how I am going to approach this, the part that you guys can't join me for. And then the only other thing I think I might do, and I might make, you know, an addendum video on panning and on the 3D sound, or the 3D sound stage that you have to worry about when you do panning, is that I might pan these individual elements. So again, that would be just sort of like I did when I was mixing, going through each thing and just placing it. So like if I place the clean chords, you know, to the left, I would place the fuzz chords to the right, and just sort of not dramatically, no more than 10 or 12 or so, but just getting things to sit on different sides of the stereo spectrum, which will really, honestly, will give me more headroom in the end, which might then in turn allow me to push stuff even further. But I really don't want to push stuff anymore past this point. We're already hitting -5, and I got to give my mastering engineer plenty of room to push this stuff up. But I guess, you know, through all the philosophy, through all the tough times, the good times, the writer's block times, I just, you know, I'm so glad that people give a shit about what I'm doing and want to learn a little bit more about how this process gets done in your room. Anyway, this is AK signing off, the Track with AK first series, and if you've enjoyed this, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm totally open to doing another one of these, maybe on remixing, maybe on just sound design, whatever makes a difference to people in their production methods. Let me know what you want to see, and I try to make it happen. Alright guys, until next time.